I'd love to take you on a little tour around your emotional landscape. This will just take a few minutes. Feel free to close your eyes and just start by bringing your awareness to your breath. As you listen to the sound of my voice and allow me to guide you, let's begin by imagining that we are about to burst out laughing. Like you're just on the cusp of laughter. That last silent moment before a loud laugh escapes from your throat. Feel that humor bubbling up. Feel the giddiness, feel your smile curl, and breathe into this feeling, being on the cusp of laughter. And before it's even audible, feel how the sensation feels in your body, the tingles associated with letting this emotion rise up. Take a deep breath into this feeling right before laughter, and now come back to a neutral emotional state. And now I invite you to imagine the moment right before tears fall. Whether they're happy tears or tears of despair, feel the sensation of this emotion rising up, building in intensity, coming to the top of your throat, constricting your chest. Breathe into this motion right before tears, right on the cusp of crying. Let it quicken your heart rate. Let it scrunch up your face. Take one final breath here, and now come back to a neutral state. And finally, I invite you to come to the moment right before you yell out in anger. Feel this emotion rise up. And in the moments before the scream escapes from your mouth, let it clench your fists. Let it contort your face. Let it engage your muscles. Let it change your posture. Breathe into this feeling right before anger is released from you. Stay here, not letting it escape, but feeling it right before it reaches a boiling point. Breathe into this feeling, and now return back to neutrality. And gently open your eyes. Today we're here to talk about emotional discharge. I got a question for you. Why is it that we pee and we poop and we sneeze and we fart every single day, but we don't cry every day, we don't laugh every day, we don't scream every day? I put all those iterations of emotional discharge, laughing, screaming, crying, shivering, gasping, moaning, sighing, in the same category as physiological discharge. Sweating, bleeding, using the toilet, coughing. Every act I just mentioned is an instance of your body releasing something that was stuck inside. It's a cleansing practice and a way to let go of weight that you've been carrying. Now, when we're talking about pooping, it could be literal physical weight. When we're talking about crying, it could be more of an emotional weight. But every time energy exits our body, it represents us getting lighter. But as I said just a moment ago, we tend to neglect this emotional discharge. We grow up in a world that programs us to suppress tears, to not laugh at the wrong time, to keep our voice down, to not act in any way that would disturb or upset the people around us. And so we keep a lot inside. I know you can feel it. I know as I'm saying these words, you can somatically feel where in your body emotions have been stuck. And I know you're desperate for a way to release them. That's exactly why we're here today. In just a moment, I'm going to share a bunch of different techniques for emotional release that you probably never heard of before. Ways to finally let go of grief, sadness, anger, frustration, anxiety that you've been carrying in your tissue, carrying in your thoughts, so that you can be more free, more mobile, more expansive. But before that, a quick hello. My name is Itai Atula, the traveling yogi, and I just spent the last year solo traveling all across Asia, studying yoga under masters I could have never dreamed of meeting. Now I've returned to the Western world for no place like Om, Europe's biggest yoga tour, where I'm teaching yoga to the people who need it most for free in over 20 of this continent's biggest cities. Right now, I'm in Venice, Italy. Just got here yesterday. About to teach a class here in just a few hours. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here with this transmission. I'm so elated to be spending this time with you, and I'm confident that you will emerge from this even lighter and even wiser than you were just a moment ago. Now, before we get into all these techniques for emotional release, we need to talk about emotional literacy. Sometimes it's not easy to feel emotions. We just want to bottle them up, push them down. But even harder than feeling emotions is describing emotions. Because it's so difficult, I'd love to give you a little visual aid. Imagine your emotional spectrum as a rainbow. Maybe anger is red, anxiety is orange, embarrassment is yellow, gratitude is green, and so on. Now you might be saying, wait, there are only 7 colors in the rainbow, but I have way more than 7 emotions. It turns out there are actually infinite colors in the rainbow, because a rainbow is not just made up of 7 solid color blocks: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Within every one of those 7 colors I just mentioned lies an infinity of tones, of hues, of shades, of frequencies. There are a million different shades of red before you get to orange. And one of my favorite fun facts is that different cultures and different languages have varying degrees of specificity when it comes to naming colors. For instance, some languages might have different words for light blue and dark blue. They won't refer to them both as blue, they'll just be completely different colors, rather than different shades of the same color as we think about it. But in other languages and other cultures, you might use the same word for red and pink. Although we in the English language think of red and pink as 2 different colors, somebody in another part of the world might think of red and pink as 2 shades of the same color. As I'm describing this, I'm sure you're beginning to see that the more we zoom in on this rainbow, the more words we need to describe what we see. And although it would be impossible to describe every single color in the rainbow, because we would need an infinite amount of words, The more words we have, the more colors we can describe, the more understanding we have over these colors. In the same way, the more emotional words we have in our vocabulary, the better we become at understanding our emotions. Sometimes it's not enough to just stick with sad and happy. Think about how many emotions live within the spectrum of happy. Grateful, excited, giddy, whimsical, playful, giggly. There's an infinite number of emotional words out there. And I encourage you, if you haven't yet done this, to take a piece of paper and write down every single emotional word you can think of. Take your time with it. You might need multiple sheets of paper. And then put that up on your wall, somewhere in your living space, so that when you're going through difficult emotions you can't name, you can point to one of those words and understand the emotion. In yoga philosophy, our body has two hemispheres, the sun side and the moon side, which in Sanskrit we call the Pingala side and the Ida side. The sun side represents our inner masculine, and the moon side represents our inner feminine. So in yoga philosophy, we learn that everybody's emotions come from their moon energy, their feminine energy. What characterizes this moon side is being a little more sentimental, a little more intuitive, a little less verbal, a little more vibrational. On the other hand, we can define the masculine side as being more logical, more pragmatic, more definitive, more concrete, more tangible. And so, when we use words to describe our emotions, we are combining our masculine and feminine, which is the work of the Hatha Yogi. Ha meaning sun, Ta meaning moon, Hatha Yoga meaning union of sun and moon. On the flip side of that, if we don't know how to define our emotions, how to describe our emotions with words, then we're going to be out of balance. Our moon is going to rule us and our sun won't shine. Now to take this analogy a little bit further, the moon has so much influence over our body. The moon is in charge of the tides of the ocean, and at the same time our body is 75% water. So the moon also pulls on our energies in the same way. But we wouldn't be able to see the moon in the sky without the sun. So how would we be able to see our emotions, to understand our emotions, if we didn't have the words to describe them? The more light we cast on our emotions with these words, the more we're able to marry our two greatest strengths, our pragmatism and our intuition, in order to gain mastery over our emotions. And to be clear, mastery over our emotions does not mean being completely stoic, being strong and silent, never feeling anything. It means being able to honor these emotions and experience them fully so that we don't suppress them, so that they don't get trapped in our body. And I think we can all relate to this feeling of suppressing emotions in our body. I'll tell you my personal experience with it. For 3 years of my life, I was a heavy stoner. I was smoking marijuana like 3 or 4 times a day. And I would do it every time an uncomfortable feeling came up. If I felt scared, I would smoke. If I felt angry, I would smoke. If I felt confused, I would smoke. And then, when I smoked, I would be sedated. I would be numb. I would be blissed out. But what I didn't realize was I was creating a trash pile of emotional junk inside my body. Not to say that these more difficult emotions are junk, but by storing them and letting them waste away, they start to stink. They start to influence our lives in ways we might not expect. They become much heavier, much more annoying to carry around. That's what I mean by emotional junk. And so when I finally got sober, thanks to yoga, I was forced to confront all of this emotional junk I'd been carrying. I had to do a little spring cleaning and somatically release all of this emotional junk. And what I realized after I stopped smoking is that the entire time that I was a stoner, I did not have a full emotional spectrum. I was only allowing myself to feel a narrow little sliver of my full rainbow. And because I spent so long not being able to feel the full rainbow, I now see it as such a privilege to feel anything, whether that emotion is difficult or joyous. I take pride in it all. And I'd rather feel horrible than feel numb. And I'm sure you can relate a little bit to this story. I have a little idea. Right now, I want you to think about all the emotions you feel on a weekly basis. Name them. How many of them do you feel every day? How many of them do you feel just once every few days? Bring to mind the moments when you feel these emotions. Reawaken the moments inside of you. Reawaken the emotion that that moment brought out. Breathe into this feeling and understand that it's familiar because you feel it all the time. And now I want to ask you a different question. Can you name all the emotions that are stuck in your body? All the emotions that you've suppressed? All the emotions that you've turned away from out of fear, out of inconvenience, whatever it may be? And bring to mind some moments where you turned away from an emotion because it wasn't the right time, because you didn't want to look at it. And try to imagine the stuck emotion inside of you as a prickly, thorny forest that's growing and growing and growing. And recognize your task to pull the weeds so that your inner garden can be a soft, luscious, friendly, beautifully smelling place. But how do we actually pull these weeds? How do we actually tend to our garden and cultivate our inner landscape to become one that we're proud of? This is the whole reason I wanted to deliver this transmission, because I just taught a beautiful yoga class in Ljubljana, Slovenia, and we did some deep emotional discharge work that led to a lot of amazing results, and I felt called to share it. During this class, people were sobbing, shaking, screaming, throwing tantrums, hyperventilating, and afterwards, everyone felt a sense of lightness. And so even if you can't see me on this tour, I want to share with you. I want to empower you with these techniques so that you can do them on their own time. So first we must understand that the body actually doesn't know the difference between a real laugh and a fake laugh, a real cry and a fake cry, a real scream and a fake scream. By doing quote unquote fake emotional discharge, we are hijacking our body and instructing it to fire neural pathways associated with real experiences of that emotion. So try right now, give yourself a little fake laugh. Even if it's not real, let it be big and brash and loud. Feel your chest jumping up and down as you laugh. And understand that oxytocin is being secreted, the hormone of love and connection, because your body is trained to release it when you have these kind of physiological responses. So it doesn't matter whether you're feeling the emotion or not, you can release these emotions at any time. So a good sadhana, a good practice for doing this emotional discharge is to just find a private space where you can be loud, where nobody will come disturb you, and take some quiet time away from your phone, away from the outside world, to put on some music and allow yourself to pick from a menu of emotional discharge. Maybe you want to get on the floor and throw a tantrum. Maybe you want to grovel on your knees and wail. Maybe you want to stomp and punch pillows. Maybe you want to roll around with laughter till you're in stitches. Maybe you want to moan in pleasure, like you're having the best food you've ever eaten. Write yourself a menu of different sounds your voice can make, different movements your body can make, that represent releasing emotions that's stuck in your body. Punching, singing, yelling, shivering, panting. Use the words I'm saying now as a starting point for your full menu. And then just keep this menu somewhere you can see it. And for as long as you need, take your time going through this menu. And try to actually eat as much on the menu as you can, knowing that it won't fill up your belly. It will actually drain your body and purge everything out of your body. And then after that's over, take 5 to 10 minutes in Savasana, just laying on the floor on your back, and feel everything washing out of you. When you emerge from that Savasana, you will feel so much lighter, so much more in control of your emotions. And actually your emotions will be your friends. Not some big frightening monsters you're scared to face, but just some little neighbors that you invite inside for tea, ask how they're doing, and befriend. The more time we spend with these emotions, feeling them in our body, feeling them in our voice, the less they confuse us, the less they push us around, the more we can actually get to know them in a way that serves us, that makes it so that we don't break down at the wrong time, we don't laugh at the wrong time, we have emotional mastery. You have a certain strength in your bathroom muscles so that you don't pee and poop at the wrong time. You can hold it till you reach a bathroom, right? That's what practicing this emotional discharge does. You develop the internal muscles to feel these emotions and then let them out. You'll find you have an increased sensitivity to when you need to let it out. And you'll be doing this emotional discharge more and more and more and more. And that's a good thing. Any kind of spiritual practice or sadhana makes us more and more sensitive. But there's nothing to fear if we're friends with everything that comes in our path. Okay, but let's say that you don't have that kind of quiet space. Let's say it's the middle of the day and you gotta go now. You gotta let something out now. I have 2 ideas. They involve drawing and writing. First of all, a great thing that I do with my students, and I do myself sometimes, is to draw the face of the emotion I'm feeling. Whether it's cartoony or photorealistic, before you ask, it doesn't matter if you're a good visual artist or not. All that matters is that you're able to emote through the pencil onto the paper. And then you can either mirror that face or just look at that face and understand the feeling. This is great if you can't find the right emotional language, because a picture says 1,000 words. And to extend this, you can fill a whole page with different faces and make that face using your own body as you draw the face on paper. This is a more quiet, more casual kind of way to do this emotional discharge. Similar to the guided practice that we started this transmission with. You just let the emotion come to the cusp, become familiar with the feeling. That way, when you do have a space where you can safely emotional discharge, using your voice, using body movements, you know exactly what that feeling is, and you can bring it to the surface readily, on command. And then if you prefer words over drawing, you can do this kind of repetitive, verbal purgation. Let's use the emotion of fear as an example. You say, I'm afraid of heights. I'm afraid of disappointing my family. I'm afraid of starving. I'm afraid of going broke. I'm afraid of getting robbed. And you fill an entire page with all the things you're afraid of. You can do the same with resentment. I resent my high school bully. I resent the person who yelled at me on the street. I resent myself for sleeping in today. Fill an entire page with all the things you resent. And the first time I did this, it was thanks to The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And I really was uncomfortable with it because it felt like I was casting a dark spell. I was like, oh my God, no, I don't want to bring this energy into my life because I was scared of it. But the more you let it out, the more you realize it's natural. And when I was done, I was like, oh my God, I feel so much lighter. I feel like a weight has just been lifted off of me. It went from inside my body and I left it on the page. And it made the rest of my day, the rest of my week, the rest of my life so much better. Because now I had this technique that I could come back to any time. But you can also do it for all the things you're grateful for, all the things you're embarrassed about, all the things you yearn for. And you can trust that whatever's stuck inside of you will be purged out and vomited onto the page so that you no longer have to walk around with it inside your body. Let me know below if you've had any experiences doing anything like this in the past, whether you realize you're doing it or not. What is your experience with emotional purgation? I can't wait to hear your story. I can't wait to respond to you and say hello and become friends in the comments. I love you so much, and I thank you for joining me here with this transmission today. If anything stuck with you, please write it down, or just close your eyes for a few minutes after this ends, and stay with the feeling. I love you so much, you're perfect, you are on a beautiful path, and I can't wait to see where you go next. I'll catch you next time. Peace and love.